Imagine multiplying your content output tenfold while cutting your work in half. Does that sound impossible? Well, that's not fiction. It's a reality when you know how to leverage AI tools and avoid the pitfalls. Now, in this episode, you're going to discover game-changing technology is rewriting the rules of business and how you can use it too.
Welcome to Fortify Live with your host, Ford Saeks.
Today, we're thrilled to dive into the world of AI with Terry Brock, a Hall of Fame keynote speaker and a veteran of the media industry. Now, he's done everything from covering Richard Nixon's inauguration to helping entrepreneurs amplify their message with cutting-edge technology. And I've followed him for years. Now, Terry has seen it all, and he's done it all. With a background in radio, TV, and journalism, and he has a passion for empowering content creators. Terry's insights on using AI to build a thriving business are invaluable. Okay, we got the intro done, Terry. Welcome to Fortify Live. We're live right now on Facebook and LinkedIn, YouTube, and a few other places. First, thank you so much for joining us on this episode.
Great to be with you, Ford. Always good to sit down and talk about how we can help people to make their business better.
All right, so this is not scripted. This becomes the audio of this becomes the audio podcast. The video right now, I said we're live on many platforms. If you're listening to the podcast, you can check out Terry Brock at starkravingentrepreneurs.com. So what a cool domain, starkravingentrepreneurs.com, and check them out online. They've got some great resources. All right. So Terry, you and I have both been using AI for, a while, even before it became popular. What inspired you to really lean into using AI for content creation when everybody can do it now?
Well, I think AI now is giving us the capability to get some ideas that are going to be reasonable that people are looking for. That's the beauty of it. It can go out there and not just say, well, hey, I think I got a great idea. We ought to do this. It's going, well, wait a minute. Your audience is asking for this. They're looking for that. So we can get the right kind of information. Then it helps us to put it together. We use the tools as you do as well, Ford. I know we're using tools like ChatGPT and Perplexity so that it can give us ideas to get started with. And I think that's the way we got to look at it. It's not that we would copy and paste it. I've seen too many people, I'm sure you've seen them on YouTube. They say, all you got to do is just get this, you copy it and paste it, and there it is. It does all the work. No, Sparky, it doesn't work that way. What you got to do is you use that as a first draft. Yeah, there it is. I like that. You use that as the first draft. Or as I like to say, the rough draft, and even before the rough draft, the rough draft. So I call it the doggy draft. The rough draft. You get that idea, then you put your own feel into it. Make it you. Make it something that is about you. And then AI can really do a lot with it. I think that it's a great advancement, and really, it's one of the most profound advancements we've seen in technology in a long time. It is profound.
Yeah, I tell people that, AI isn't going to replace people. It's going to replace people using AI. And well, everybody jumps to it, Terry. I'm curious of your perspectives from an innovation standpoint. I think it's going to be the biggest disruptor that we've ever had. I think it's bigger than the wheel, than fire, than the internet. It's going to make the internet look like a grain of sand on a beach. I really believe that it's going to transform and impact every area of our lives. And I would say to our listeners and viewers, don't get seduced by technology. Okay, focus on how you can use it to grow your business. And Terry, I know you spend a lot of time helping speakers, authors, trainers, experts, and brands create valuable content. But here's my question. When everybody can create content, does that make everybody a commodity? I'm just curious. If everybody's an expert.
Yeah, it could. And I think you raised a very good point because, hey, if everyone can get that same data, then what are you going to do? Well, the difference comes in when you customize it. See, ChatGPT knows a lot of information. It goes out there. But Ford, it does not know about that great seminar you went to last March, where you heard the speaker and she was really good. And she said a line that you resonate with because of this and this, your own experience. See, and that's what AI does not have. And I think that's where those who stand out are going to do it very well, when they can put it in their own way. It's something I like to say, I think you need to Fordize it. A guy named Bob would need to Bobize it. I like to Terryize it. Just sounds kind of cool that way. But you want to youize it. Make sure that it's got your fingerprints all over it. I like it when, for instance, every Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, I send out an email list and send out a notice to folks with some ideas and concepts. The way I like to start it is I start with, well, my microphone on here, using Google Docs, and I'll use Google Docs and I use their voice typing to just do a brain dump into it. Here's what I want it to be. Then I take that, feed it into Perplexity, and Perplexity has a focus called writing. So it says, okay, we're going to put away all this other stuff on the net, like the temperature here and the time and the baseball scores and this news. No, no, no. We're just focusing on writing. And then I use that writing focus to make sure it's using the right grammar, the right syntax. I can ask it to funny it up a little bit, or maybe it needs to be more serious. So it's really more like an academic paper, whatever the tool is. And then I let Perplexity give me a suggestion. Then I go back and further edit it. So now I'm up to my third edit where I'm looking at it and go, ooh, I like that phrase. Okay, that sounds good. Ooh, I wouldn't say that. Pull that out. This is okay, but let me modify it a bit. So I'll do that, clean it up, and then by going through those several iterations, it helps us to produce better. So I think that's the real key. Like you said, AI is not necessarily going to take away your job, although there will be jobs that AI is going to do.
It's going to take your job as you know it today, but certainly create opportunities. So here's a question.
Yeah, it'd be good, but you got to look at it because there's going to be people that know how to do it. That's the real key, which means we need to keep learning all the time.
Yeah, and that's one of the things that I do this episode for. You know, people always ask me, what, you know, the world doesn't need another podcast, right? I mean, there's so many podcasts and everything, but to me, I hope our listeners understand that the reason that you and I are on here today is to help people if they're coachable and they're critical thinkers and they're open-minded and they're willing to take action. So the ideas and strategies we share need to be adapted to your particular brand or your business. And on this podcast, we've got franchise brands, franchisees, meeting planners, we've got other experts, we've got private equity groups, we have a lot of entrepreneurs and associations are part of this. And so the takeaway is if you're using these tools, you want to make sure that you use them effectively. Now, there's a couple quick things just because you brought it up. I'm going to bring up a slide full screen. So right now on the screen, it says profitrichresults.com/AI-tools. So Terry's already mentioned a couple. These are the main language models. You got ChatGPT, you got Copilot, Gemini, Perplexity, and Claude. So that's the main tools that are being used. But like any tool, I mean, I can open up Photoshop. That doesn't make me a graphic designer, right? You can open up ChatGPT. That doesn't make. So these are tools. They're not replacements. And where I think a lot of people get it wrong is they don't know how to use the tool effectively. And like I say, treat it as an expert, but like you said, Fordize it or monitor it like an intern so that you can make sure that it's your brand and what you're doing. All right. So anything on that? And then I want to ask you about some workflows. I'm going to try to ask the expert. I've got you here. So this is, pretend we don't have any listeners. This is just me and you wanting to learn. So I'm
exactly
curious.
It's just you and me, a couple of Midwest kids here talking about cool technology.
What are your favorite tools that you're using? What are the favorite tools that you're using now?
Oh, well, I use several that are out there. Of course, we use ChatGPT and the different flavors of it. I like the ChatGPT 4.0. That's not 0. That's
4 Omni. Yep.
Yeah, the Omni, because it does a lot with video. So we can take pictures of something and go, what is this? Or what is that? There's a lot of cool things you can do with that are really business oriented. So I'm using that. I love my Perplexity. Perplexity I'm using regularly, and I love those focus that I can get. You can focus on writing. Hey, here's another nice one too, Ford, and I know you can relate to this. We as professional speakers, we want to know about what's going on in the world. What are the controversial issues? One of the nice things we can do with Perplexity is we can use a focus on social media, and specifically that goes into Reddit. Now in Reddit, we know people are really expressing their true feelings, their opinion. Like here's a controversial issue, big one out here. There's people on this side and there's people on that side. Okay, we got it. I want to know what everybody's saying. The journalist in me says, okay, I want to hear what all these different points of view are, and then I'll synthesize it myself. With Perplexity, you can do that. And I find that each of these tools have certain areas where they sparkle and where they're maybe not as good as the other ones. But I use those. Then, of course, Cast Magic. I'm using Cast Magic a lot because it takes care of the reproducing and the repurposing that you want to do in such a beautiful way, particularly those of us who are using audio and using video to communicate. So those are 3 tools. And of course, there's many others. There's probably, I think, 553 bazillion, I think that's the exact number, tools out there all the time and more every day. But rather than being inundated with all the tools, like you showed several on the screen there, they're good, but there's no way that any one person can master everything about all of those tools. Just not going to happen.
I think what's really interesting,
what works for you.
So you and I are both doing keynotes and trainings on and helping brands with AI, and it's interesting now because I was doing it, way before it became popular. AI has been around before ChatGPT came out. I mean, Google has algorithms.
Since
I mean, it's artificial.
1957.
Yeah. So what's really funny is now everybody with a laptop is an AI expert, right? I mean, if we open up our emails right now, we got 16 emails from someone doing a new webinar on AI for accountants, AI for manufacturing, AI for corporate leaders, AI for communication. And really it does apply to everything. I think that a great way to think about it is it's like a sentient being. It's 500% smarter than the smartest human. I saw a graph the other day on ChatGPT 4 and 4.0 and 5, and 5 is getting ready to come out for ChatGPT.
Mm-hmm.
And the way they showed it was 4 was a dot, and it was just like a pinpoint. It said, this is everything that ChatGPT has now. And then it said, here's what ChatGPT 5 is. And it was this huge circle. So I mean, I don't think they're going to take over the world yet, or hopefully not, but I just know that it's going to be smarter and faster.
Yeah, exactly. And that's where what we need is, I like the way that Andy Kessler talked about it in the Wall Street Journal. He said, we need a kill switch. We need some way to say, okay, hold it, gone too far, and turn that off. And make
is there
sure
such a thing though? Are there really going to be one? Because I just think that it's just like once the genie's out of the bottle, you can't put it back in. And other countries are going to use it. Hackers are using it. People are using deep fakes, and they're creating all kinds because it's multimodal. AI can see, it can hear, it can think. I mean, it has its own language. So I'm just curious. I mean, what do you see the future?
Well, I think the future, first of all, is very difficult, if impossible to predict. But I think that we're going to need to have AI monitoring AI, and we program it accordingly. So that way we're going to be able to stay ahead of it. The last thing we should do is what some have said, well, we just should put a stop on it. Say, no, you're not going to persuade China to do that.
That's my point.
Russia,
that was my whole
North
thing.
Korea,
there's no way.
Iran. No, they're not going to stop. So to say, okay, no, we do it. No. What we need to do is aggressively learn it, but also be aware of the challenges. For it, it's like any other technology. My buddy Og came up with this idea a while back where he would have something called fire back in the cave, and fire was a good technology, keep you warm and cook your food, but there's dangers to it as well. They can kill, it can destroy. Well, yeah, okay, so that's the way it's been since then. The same thing with airplanes. Airplanes, the safest form of transportation now, but have people died in airplanes? Well, yeah, unfortunately, but we learn from that. We made mistakes, we learn from it. Every time there's something that goes wrong, what can we do to make it better? And I think that's the same way we got to approach AI. Go into it realizing, okay, there's good and bad. Let's learn.
So I know that, people at let's call it level 1. Level 1 is using the tool, and some tips that I would have, and I'm going to have Terry send his tips. Then we're going to go to level 2. So tips for level 1, use the tool, set the settings. So you set your privacy settings to what you want. Go through whatever tool, whether it's ChatGPT, Copilot, Gemini, Claude, or one of the other ones we'll talk about in level 2. Make sure you set your privacy settings, learn how the tool works, be an observer first. Start simple, get complicated later, and just avoid the pitfalls. And if you're an organization, you need to make sure you have a standard operating procedure for your team so they understand what's acceptable use and what's not. So that, because your team, if you have a team of more than one person, they're using it already. So you need to make sure you're communicating to your team what's the effective way to use these tools, what's our do's and don'ts, what's compliance, especially if you're a global brand. And then to make sure you have some type of a communication channel, if you're using Slack or Microsoft Teams, I recommend you have an AI channel where you can put your wins and losses and best practices. What tips do you have for people on that level 1 where they're using these tools now, but maybe they need to use them a little bit more effectively?
I think, first of all, it's going to start with an attitude. Have an attitude of, I'm not going to let this thing take over. Don't be fearful of it, and realize you want to learn and embrace learning. Regular, ongoing learning. This is the thing that Ford, you and I do regularly. It's not like you took something. So many people say, well, I had history here, or I had biology, or I had chemistry when I was in school, as if it were an inoculation. You take it and now it's over. No. You want to continue doing it. Make it an integral part of what you're doing and how you're learning. And look at it for the good, while you also realize there's dangers, just like in flying. I love when I get on the plane that the pilots always go through a massive checklist. Even though they've flown many times before, perfectly all right with me if they go through that checklist and make sure it's okay. And so I would say build those in at the beginning and always look for the real applications. You and I are in business. So we're looking at how is this going to help us in business and get the results we want. Maybe you're an artist. Maybe you're a musician. Look at what the goal is for you and then hold to that. This is what I would do at a level 1, making sure that you're getting your focus on the right areas at the right way.
Now, real quick question. I didn't actually pull it up now. Do you have a lead magnet or a bonus or a download or something you want to share with the people who are still here listening today? Is there something that they can go to subscribe to your newsletter? Because I know I get your newsletter, but I've been subscribed for so many years, I don't remember. Where can they go to subscribe? Would it be to starkravenentrepreneurs.com, or where would they go?
Well, there's several places they can do it. That's where we have that. But got something we put together that is a tool kit that shows you how these programs work, and we keep revising it and updating it. You go to AI Tools for the number 4 biz.com, AIToolsForBiz.com. You'll learn about Perplexity. You'll learn about ChatGPT. You'll learn about some others that you go, I hadn't heard of that one. That's pretty good. Might be able to use it. Others, you look at it and go, okay, that's not for me, but it's nice to know what's there. So we've got that available. There's no charge for that at all. Just bounce over to AIToolsForBiz.com. And Ford, thank you very much.
And that's the number 4. All right, perfect. Thank you so much
the number 4
for sharing that. All right, so now I want to go to what I'm going to call level 2, which is, okay, we've used the core tools. Level 2 is using the moderations of those tools, and level 3 would be workflows. So I'm going to put a few up on the screen right now. These are a few of my favorites. Zapier, Make.com. Obviously, we talked about Claude and Perplexity. HeyGen, Seamless, Descript and GetMuch and Murph. There's a lot of them here, and if you're listening right now, don't worry. We're talking about a lot of things. You don't have to use all these tools. But I'm curious, besides Perplexity, which is my go-to now, just like instead of going to Google, I go to Perplexity. I think in the future, Gemini is probably going to be one of the biggest because they have Google behind them and all the data from Google. But right now it's too biased for me, and it just produces really random results. But what are some of the tools for specific things? You mentioned Cast Magic. What are some other ones that you use?
Yeah, several of them. By the way, I'm going to say I have to agree with you on Gemini. I like it. It's from Google. I like Google. I use a lot of their products, but I'm also a little bit concerned that it has kind of gone a wrong direction in some areas, and it's a little too concerned of being politically correct, and
a little too concerned. You say that so modestly, but yeah. And just for the purposes of this episode, neither Terry and I are giving you legal advice. This isn't political. We want you to be a critical thinker. Use what you want. But be open-minded to, if you have a belief that isn't serving you, maybe you should get some new beliefs. Okay, so back to the tools. We gave the disclaimer. What else do you like to use?
I'm going to underline and highlight what you just said. If you got a belief that's not serving you, then change it. We need to be open to new ideas all the time.
Yep.
So those are some that I've used. I like that. I also like 11 Labs.
Yes.
11 Labs is really good. Probably the strongest one out there for voice, so that you can listen. One thing they just added this last week, you probably know about this, where you can then select a voice of someone and it reads text to you. So that way it's out there, and they've got several that are already. You want Burt Reynolds. I saw that was Burt Reynolds on there. Could read certain children's works to you or to your children. And I thought, this is nice that we can use. Plus, famously, it can clone your voice, which has some real applications for those of us who create content. Ford, all those books that you've written, all those articles you've done, now you can take those, feed them into a tool like 11 Labs, or you mentioned Murph as well. Murph's a good one. Those kind of tools, so that now we get your voice cloned that is now using that, and that translates to business, which is a real good thing.
There's so
I
many,
think that's good. One thing I noticed also you had on there was HeyGen.
Whoops, wrong button. Hang on, I just cut you off.
Wrong button. Get the other button up there.
Yeah, I cut you when I put the slide up. It cut your audio off. So you keep talking about it. I'll bring it back up in a minute.
Oh, okay. So we know that the HeyGen is a great little tool, and it gives you the ability to do something amazing where it can have you speaking in another language with your mouth and facial expressions moving the right way. We have a client we've worked with now, and he's now doing that and making some serious money for Spanish and Portuguese, Brazilian Portuguese specifically. So he has a lot of clients in that part of the world. He does not speak Spanish himself. He does not speak Portuguese, but now he's able to make money with that. Because you think about it, the biggest language on the internet, the largest used, is English. you're competing with all these other people that speak English. But you know that article, that book you got that was really a hit and still is good that you wrote 5 years ago? You can take that, translate it into another language, Spanish, Russian, Mandarin, whatever, be able to do that and watch it do something for you to help that market that we couldn't do before. Forward, I think that is just flat out amazing.
Yeah, so I'm going to play a short little video. You know, there's really only 4 ways to grow a business. Number 1, you want more clients, but we don't want more clients. We want higher value clients. Número 2, aumentar la transacción promedio. Sucede al agrupar o agregar mejoras de valor y ventas cruzadas. Et numéro 3, comment augmentez-vous les ventes répétées? Optimieren Sie Ihre Abläufe. Einer der besten Wege, dies zu tun, ist die ChatGPT. 法人、団体、小規模ビジネス、起業家、専門家でビジネスを成長させる方法. Now, that was done with HeyGen 6 months ago, Terry. I haven't even updated it, but it's my voice. Now, what happened was I got hired to speak in Montreal, and they wanted me to do my presentation virtually. They wanted me to pre-record it in English and then use PowerPoint to put captions, because you can record in PowerPoint and it can translate the language so that it has French subtitles. What I had just learned about HeyGen, and so I said, hey, what if I record the presentation in French? And they said, well, you said you didn't speak French. I said, I know, but what if I converted it to French? So I did my presentation, my virtual presentation, 45-minute keynote. I did it in English, just like this in my studio, and then I uploaded it to HeyGen. At the time, they would only let you do 5-minute segments, so I had to chop it into 5-minute segments, of course. And then I picked French, and I started the presentation and just said, hey, this is Ford Saeks. I'm using a new tool called HeyGen to convert it to French. Please excuse any dialect errors that I might make, but I thought you'd enjoy this more than you would listening to me in English, reading the French subtitles. Did the whole video, and I was the hit of the whole show because I was one of the only speakers that went to that much trouble to do that. Now I'm sure it's even easier, but it was my voice. It was my presentation. So anyway, those tools are out there. What I think is really scary to me is the multimodal, because we know all over the devices are listening. If we start talking about Costa Rica right now, I guarantee you on TikTok later, you're going to see things for Costa Rica, right? It's just the world that we live in. And so, you know, for me, it can see, it can read, it can hear. What I do, Terry, when I get in the car, I know we were talking about other things, other level 2 programs, but I like to go into my car, plug in and turn the audio version on ChatGPT and just have a conversation. And the voice to speech, and then it has to convert it to text, and it goes to large language model, then it has to convert it from text back to speech. But it's getting so fast now that you can actually have a conversation. And that just leads to, now there's AI girlfriends and there's AI companions, and people aren't social as it is. So I think before we go on to level 2 and level 3, I think society might not be ready for the disruption that's going to happen. But as an entrepreneur, I see so many opportunities.
Yeah, I agree. There's an enormous amount of opportunities with that, and it is really good. And by the way, I'm saying you're Japanese, Nihon Jozu desu ne. You're speaking Japanese very well there. And with HeyGen, I'm hoping it can really open up a lot of areas where we can communicate more with people around the world, rather than figuring out ways to kill and to fight because they live in a different country, they speak different languages and all that. Hey, how about if we learn to communicate? And we all say, look, we just want to do better next year than we did last year. We want our families taken care of. We want peace. And maybe AI can be one of the tools that can help us to bring that about. Anyway, that's what my hope is. But
my hope is that too.
Good opportunities.
I know there's glasses now. I saw, Terry, there's glasses with an earbud that you can actually, so anything you see, it can communicate. If you see signs in other languages, it can read it. And then if someone's speaking another language, it'll automatically, if you've got your settings, it'll actually convert it to, there's ear pods and glasses with an earpiece. So, I mean, I don't think we're far away from having an implant where anybody speaks another language, it just automatically converts it to, I really think that it's that close. It's probably already out there. But I think that that's where it's going. It's going to level the playing field when it comes to that.
We've had that actually for a little while. I remember a couple of years ago, I had the opportunity to interview Qiu Zhang, who was the general manager of Alibaba.com. I mean, a head guy right there with Jack Ma. And this was his first ever English language interview. He asked me to do it, and he had checked me out and everything. All these people was really interested. But he was telling me what he and Jack Ma put together at that time a commerce device so that I could speak into the device in English, my native language. He would hear it in Mandarin, his native language. Then when he responds in Mandarin, I hear it in English. And that's going to open up all kinds of commerce opportunities, right? And that was a few years ago. Right now, we're seeing this kind of thing happen so that eventually we can kind of dissolve the Tower of Babel that broke everyone up years ago, and it caused all the disruption. Now we might be able to pull people together, and maybe if we could settle on peaceful interaction with business and other areas rather than fighting, that might be a really good thing.
Yeah, and it's a real practical use. I was speaking at a conference the other day, and I wanted a table on the riser at the front, and the guy didn't speak English, so I'm like trying to explain it, and so I said English, he said Portuguese. So I went to ChatGPT and I said, act as my translator. When you hear English, convert it to Portuguese. And when you hear Portuguese, convert it to English. And I said, do you understand? It said, yes. Ask me your question. I said, hey, I'd really appreciate if you could bring me an 8-foot table for the stage area. Would that be okay? And I have $20 as a tip. So it converted it. And immediately he gave me this long response, which basically, yes, sir, I'll be right back with your table. And so, I mean, it's
wonderful
really cool
how that works. Interesting you'd say that in Portuguese. Just yesterday, we had the wonderful maids come over. We got a lot of people here in Orlando from Brazil. They speak Portuguese. And so we would talk to them. I was using Google Translate, and it worked beautifully. I would say to them, good morning. And they really appreciate it. You could tell they appreciate the fact that we like to speak regularly to them in Portuguese, saying good morning, how are you, etc. And then they speak to me in Portuguese, and it translates it back into English. I think this is a wonderful, wonderful technology that really shows technology is about people, serving people. It's not something that is against people.
So regardless of what business you're in, there's a tool or an AI tool. Certainly when it comes to content creation, there's all types of tools that can do audio, that can do video, that can take long form and cut it into short form, that can create text to speech and text to video now. Now there's the new one is Flux. I've been playing around with the Flux and how it can create video. So I think it's really going to change our idea of what things are capable of doing. So I'm curious now, that's level 2. Let's go to level 3. Level 3, I would call workflows. Are you doing any automation where you're combining programs together? And if so, what do some of the automations that you're either working on or that you've explored?
We're doing a lot with the optical capability. Matter of fact, something on a very practical basis. You're my friend, so I can talk to you right here. This is just between you and me, Ford, okay?
Yep. Just me and you.
This is just you and me here. We were at work the other day. Something went wrong with our toilet. You know, the toilet here. So Gina and I didn't study a lot of plumbing. I respect the plumbers who come over and they're really, really smart. They know how to do it. But we're going to have to pay like $100 or so for somebody to come over and just look at it. And so what I did, I took the lid off. I knew how to do that. Took a picture of it with ChatGPT. And I said, what is wrong with this? And it looked over there and it told me there was a thing called a flapper. Now, I had not heard of a flapper, but apparently they are used in toilets.
Yes.
And it told me that was there and you could do this. And rather than me spending $100, it said you could get one of these. And I thought, well, my friends at Amazon might have that. So I ran over and for $6.23, I was able to get one. It was delivered the next day. And even though I'm definitely not the handyman, I worked with it, put it on there. And you know what? It works. I was able to get that. And ChatGPT saved the day.
I use ChatGPT so much now. I mean, I just had a call from another client that's doing some marketing, and they have a book, their author. And so she said, hey, I was told that when I upload my book to ChatGPT, that ChatGPT now owns it. So I went to ChatGPT and I took her exact email, pasted it in ChatGPT, and I said, is this true? And then it came back and said, no, of course it's not true. What you create is yours. Here's our terms of service. And so now we know it could have been biased, but the response it got was pretty good. And I sent it back to her, and now I'm a hero. But, use these tools, make sure you are use them with some caution. So we talked about level 1, we talked about level 2. So you've got some workflows, you're doing some pretty creative things. Here's a workflow that I've got working now. I use 2 programs for workflows. This is where you're getting data in and out of other systems, and you're allowing multiple things to happen with a trigger. So if you sign up for my webinar at profitrichresults.com/AI-now, that's actually the event landing page as opposed to the replay. But for the live event, I do one about every month. And so when you register it's a gravity form on my website. It captures their name and email. It takes their name and their email, puts it over into Zoho, which is my CRM system. It flags it so I know what event you are registering for. It registers you automatically for the Zoom webinar and sends out a customized message to you. It takes your first name, sends it over to Be Human, and Be Human, I have a template in there to create a customized video. So now it says, hi, Terry, hi, Gina, hi, Sandy, hi, Steve, and it creates a custom video with that person's name. Then it gives me a landing page with that video, sends that back to me, and then sends an email out about 20 minutes after they've registered saying, hey, Terry, thanks so much. I'm looking forward to seeing you on blank, blank, blank date where we're going to explore unleashing AI innovations and avoiding the pitfalls, blah, blah, blah. So I've gotten one trigger, which is they fill out the form on my website, and now it triggers a series of events by connecting all these pieces together. Are you doing any workflows like that yet?
Those are some things that we are working on right now, and we can see the benefit of that for registering. And by registering for something or taking certain action, then it puts in place all these others. And there's a lot of tools that are available. Like I was just looking over on AppSumo this morning, seeing there's a bunch of them out there that you can get for like $67 for life. Yes. And it does the kind of things that you're talking about. So all of that being automated is opening up worlds of possibilities. One of the things we're doing right now as an example of using that and repurposing is using a mind map. For instance, Ford, you probably used a lot of mind maps from Tony Buzan. The idea, you get a piece of paper and you write it down, really good, and you can be very creative. But then you want to add something to it or take away from it. This kind of tool now, I was showing this in our Stark Raving Entrepreneurs meeting just this last week, where you could take that, feed the paper in with your camera, you take a picture, or use a little scanner. Like here, I'm planning on my little brother's scanner here, real nice, and I can scan that in. It makes it real handy. And then I took that and gave it to ChatGPT and Perplexity, and then from ChatGPT and Perplexity, it took that and put it into print, into Roman numerals for an outline that I could put on Google Doc or Word or Pages, wherever. I like putting it on Google Doc because then, Ford, I could share this with you. I can say, Ford, we're working on this project right now. Here's what I came up with. I did the mind storming that I did there, the mind mapping. Tony Buzan would be proud, putting all that together. Now you can take it and you would look at it and go, Terry, I like that. Oh, but there's another one here we need to insert. Not a problem now because we can do it. We're using the flow of all of this together. And AI is giving us the ability to do what we couldn't have done just a little while ago, at least not as easily and fast.
So I was just looking something up while you were telling me that story. So I have notes from that. You and I were both at the National Speakers Association conference in Denver. And so I had notes on my notebook. And so I had some ways to make money with AI. And it was interesting because I'm like, oh, I have to type this up. And I thought, I wonder if I can just do this. I took a phone from, opened up ChatGPT, took a picture with my phone and said, transcribe it. Not only did it transcribe it, but it fixed all my misspellings because when I'm taking notes, I don't really care about using all the characters as long as I know what it says. And so
exactly,
it was amazing. Now I'm going to share two quick things. I'm going to do full screen, so it might cut your audio off for just a second, and then I'll pull it back on. So make.com, if you're listening to this on the podcast, check out make.com. Now make.com has over 1,600 different tech stack tools that you can use to select a trigger and then select an action. And so what you can do, so here's an automated post. And again, you're in content, Terry. So this is a workflow template that's in make.com where when you post a blog, it parses it to OpenAI and then it parses it and creates text out of it. It goes into a router and you can have it post on LinkedIn and Facebook and YouTube, and you can create YouTube scripts. So make.com, and the other one I like is Zapier. But it's central.zapier.com. So Zapier's been around for a long time, but now they have its own AI tool. And what I like about Zapier is it has 4,000 or maybe 5,000 different tech stacks. So if you're already an expert and you feel like you're really savvy with understanding prompts and how to ask questions to AI and get results, then level 3 is, okay, let's connect all these things together. How can I save time? And I'm sure this is what happens. I mean, I remember when ChatGPT first came out, you had to have plugins if you wanted it to go out and look at a PDF or if you wanted it to review a document. And now, today, you can just go straight in and upload those documents straight into the program. And I think that you're going to start seeing all the AI tools evolve. Right now, it's a party trick. You go to a browser and you type in what you want. But I think soon, well, not soon, it's already being built in because Copilot's being built in. I got a new laptop. Copilot was already built into the laptop, into the chips. So I already have AI on the laptop. I don't have to actually go somewhere else and access it. So I think you're going to start seeing a transformation of AI tools accelerating quickly, being able to do more and bigger things. So I'm going to encourage you to add make.com and Zapier to your, so it's AI tools, the number 4biz.com.
Yeah, AItools4biz.com. Exactly.
Right, perfect.
And those kind of things there. Matter of fact, Ford, I have to agree with you strongly once again. We're about to see in a few weeks, as we're recording this, Apple is going to be announcing some new equipment, and their phones and their new MacBook Pros, and they're going to be heavily endowed with AI. And they're calling it Apple investment, which is really good. I think the idea of Apple intelligence and what they're putting in there is going to be good. And of course, Samsung is doing it already, and we're able to see a lot of changes. So I think this, for our listeners, for our viewers, people that are seeing this, AI is not going away. It's not like you put your hands over your ears and go, la, 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 it'll go away. No, embrace it. Realize it's here. Realize we're going to use it and learn how to do it. Get the training that you need. Invest the time, the money, the energy to learn how to use these tools that are right for you. And get someone that can say, this tool right here, maybe not as good for what you're doing. But this one over here, this would be really good for you. Don't try to grab everything all at once.
Right.
You can't do that. But just get what's right for you at the time.
Yeah, start simple, get complicated later. I know my wife hates technology. She would be fine if there was no internet, no AI, no remote. Like I have all the gadgets and tools and bells and whistles and, doorbell cams and, AI and drones. I mean, I have all the technology. And so she laughs every time I'll say something like, I'll say, hey, Google, what's the temperature? And now I just triggered everybody's event. And it'll say, do you want to buy a soccer ball? And she just laughs because, half the time it doesn't understand what I'm asking and it gives me a completely random answer. But I think that in the future, it's just going to transform our lives. And I think that the key is don't be scared, take action, and be able to be a critical thinker. But if you start simple, get complicated, you need to be using the tools at least. And it is a tool. It is a tool. You're going to become a craftsman the more you practice. Any closing thoughts you have for our listeners today?
Let me build on top of what you just said.
Yeah, sure.
I agree with you again, Ford. Exactly. One of the phrases I found that really helps: accuracy first, then momentum. Don't worry about going so fast, but get it right first. Find the instruction you need. Read, study these tools. Have fun with it. It's going to be something that can change your world. If it hasn't already, you're going to love it.
Well, thank you so much, Terry, for carving time out. If your Gina ever need anything, let me know, and I'll make sure I put the link in the show notes on the replay too. Thanks again, Terry. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Ford. Great to see you.
Thank you for tuning in to Fortify Live. Make sure to like, comment, and share this episode on your favorite social media platform. And don't forget to subscribe to the Business Growth Show podcast, available wherever you get your podcast streaming fix. We air weekly at 11 a.m. Central Time. So until next week, keep pushing the boundaries and never stop growing.